Hey everybody, glad you're watching this video. Glad you tuned in. Please hit that like and please hit that subscribe button. Especially since I'm starting out with my new channel. It helps with YouTube's algorithm, really helps me out to be able to provide more value and more content moving forward for you all. I plan on giving you all information about real estate, credit, finances, just anything I can to be able to help you all to better yourself with your future and with your business or whatever you decide to do. Right? So with this video, I'm just going to talk about what I do and how I do it. Right? So just to give you a little background on my story, I started wholesaling real estate July 2019. And I started wholesaling real estate, with about $2,000 to $3,000. So I'm not going to tell you all, hey, look, flip real estate with no money down, this or that, blah, 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 because that's not how I started. So that's not how I'm going to tell you all to start. If you have $0 to your name, yes, you can still do this, but would I recommend it? No, that's not how I recommend to start. It's a lot harder to start with no money. Can you do it? Yes. Is there people who do it all the time? Yes, but that's not how I started, so that's not how I'm going to teach it. Or, give you all advice on it. So, with all my videos, I'm always going to be straightforward, tell y'all what it is, what I think, just straight cut, no bullshit. I don't like sugarcoating anything. I don't like, making videos with me with a Ferrari behind me being like, hey, in 6 months, you'll make $1 million. No, that's not me. I like to keep it real with everything I do. So, what I do is I wholesale real estate. So, what does that mean, Jacob? What is wholesaling real estate exactly? I've heard the term, or I've never heard the term, but I don't really get it, right? So wholesaling real estate is really a simple concept. So you market to distressed homeowners, you find properties for deeply discounted properties, and you put them under contract, and you find a buyer who is willing to pay more, and you make the difference in between that contract without having to bring your own money to the closing table, without having to fund the deal, without taking any risk on the project yourself or anything. So, for example, if you find a property for $40,000, you sign a contract with the seller, and you find a buyer for $50,000, right? You make the difference in between at the closing company. So, to find these homeowners who need help, you have to market to them in any way you can. So, what are some ways you can market to them? Cold calling, SMS, which is text messages, RVMs, which is ringless voicemails. You can direct mail to people, which I don't recommend starting out because it's a pretty decent sized cost. Like a few months into my business, honestly, I did a direct mail campaign and it almost made me go broke and maybe go back and get a job. So I don't really recommend that starting out. Some people do great, but if you don't have much capital, I don't recommend that. You can do Facebook ads, you can do Google PPC, and one of the best ways to start out and get a deal is referrals. So that's basically just telling everybody, hey, I'm in real estate now, I flip houses, I buy houses. You find a house for me to buy, I'll give you $1,000, right? So you market to these people. Most of the marketing methods, you pull a list of distressed homeowners. Hey, where can I get these lists? Where can I get these lists at? PropStream, List Source, and there's a couple data guys that I go through that, just sell data for good prices, whatever, right? So I'm going to take you through the exact process of start to finish. I'm going to go in depth, but not too in depth. And if you all have questions or topics that you want me to make videos on of, everything like in depth, I will do that. But this is just to give you an understanding of it, to be able to do research and everything. So, starting out, let's just use my example for, myself for an example. This is how I got my first deal. I had about $1,500 and, a couple $1,000s put back for, emergencies. So, what I did was I went to Deal Machine, got Deal Machine, downloaded the Driving for Dollars app, which is Deal Machine. I drove around and I looked for distressed, ugly properties. I'm sure you've seen properties in the hood that are bandos, that are boarded up, all that good stuff. So boarded up houses that have tall grass, houses that, just look like they need some loving, like they're not new. Houses that have problems. So what you're going to do is you're going to download this Driving for Dollars app, and then you're going to drive around and you're going to look for houses that need work. Ideally, you want to get 100 houses a day, right? Get 100 houses a day, and then at the end of each day or end of each every other day, you're going to export that list of houses from Deal Machine, right? You're going to export that houses from Deal Machine, and then you're going to use a skip trace provider. There are plenty of free skip tracing providers, True People Search, and things like that. And then there are paid skip tracing providers, which are way better and cut the time down. Because if you got to go through a free skip tracing provider, you're going to be going through each person and manually putting in the numbers in the spreadsheet, blah blah blah. I don't really like doing it that way because I like my time, and you all should too if you're investing. So what you do is you go to Deal Machine. After you get your houses, you export the list into a spreadsheet, right? And then you format the spreadsheet in whichever way the skip tracing company wants you to. You upload it to the skip tracing company, and then whenever they get done, they send you phone numbers, okay? Then what you're going to do with these phone numbers is you can either do one or two things. You can either, pay for automatic dialers such as Call Tools and Mojo Dialer. I really recommend Call Tools, cheaper and a better product. Or you can call them manually on your phone or a Google Voice number. I recommend a Google Voice number or a free number. You can get like a Skype number or something cheap to begin with. That's what I did, so I didn't have to pay $150 a month, $100 a month for these services. So, actually, I started out just calling from my phone number, but I don't really recommend doing that. So, you're going to call these people on the numbers. Hey, Mr. John, this is Jacob. How are you doing today? Am I bothering you right now? No, go ahead, Jacob. So, Mr. John, I was calling about the property on 123 Main Street. We're some cash investors in the area, cash buyers, whatever you want to say. And, we're just looking to buy some properties in the area. And I was just wondering if you've ever thought about selling. And then John's going to either be like, no, F off, I don't want to deal with you, which is going to be 95% of people. So it's going to take a lot of no's to get to that yes. So keep that in mind. If you call 10 people and everybody says no, and you're like, oh, wholesaling doesn't work, well, you didn't try hard enough. So you're going to call these people, and you're going to talk to them, and you're going to just get so many no's, and you're going to get yeses, right? And with the yeses, hey, Mr. John, what's the condition of the house? When are you looking to sell? And then you ask them, hey, why are you even looking to sell this property to begin with, right? And then from there, hey, Mr. John, what price do you want for your house, okay? Or you're going to text them, text them all, this and that, and, ask them these questions, right? So let's say you get a seller who's like, yeah, Jacob, I would like to sell, I want $100,000, there's not really much repairs, blah, blah, blah. I'm selling because I'm moving out of state. Cool. Then after you get your prospects, whenever you're looking at them, you're going to run numbers for these properties. When you run numbers for these properties, you're going to be finding an ARV. So, Jacob, what is an ARV? What is all this slang talk that you're talking about? An ARV is after repair value. What that means is this is what the house will sell for when it is fully re-innovated. So, new granite countertops, new windows, all this. So, from there, you find your ARV. You use that by finding other homes in the area that have sold, not homes that are selling, but homes that have sold that are like to your property. So, if you got a 3-bed, 2-bath, you want to be looking for other 3-bed, 2-baths or somewhere around that are around the same square footage. So, if your property is 1,000 square foot, you probably want to look anywhere from like 850 to 1150 square footage to compare these properties to. I usually use 15% of the square footage to, do that with. So you find 3 or 4 properties then that are similar to yours, and you use the price per square footage. You do not just say, oh, this sold for this, and okay, that's what mine will sell for. No, you use the price per square footage, and you find the average of the properties for the price per square footage. So let's say you got a property that sells for $100 a square foot, 110 a square foot, and 110 a square foot. So, it's 220 divided by 320 divided by 3, which is like 107, right? Your property is 1,000 square foot, so your property is worth 107, fixed up, fully renovated, ready to go, right? So now you need to give an offer for the seller, okay? How do you give an offer for the seller? Well, that really depends on your market and what the properties are going for. What we usually shoot for in our market is 75% minus repairs, ARV times 75% minus repairs minus your wholesale fee, which is how much you want to make on the property. Always shoot for 10 grand or more. If you make 7 grand, 5 grand, cool. You just made 7 or 5 grand. No big deal. But you want to find these properties, and you can also look for cash sales is what we do in our business. See what's selling for cash in the area and reverse engineer from that. So you see what's selling for cash, go from there, and then, you make an offer. So you have to have your max allowable offer. So if you do the ARV minus repairs minus, wholesale fee, and it comes out to $65,000, property's worth 101. This is all theoretical. Property's worth 101. So you don't want to start at your max allowable offer. You want to start at 65, 55, 60, somewhere around there. So, hey, Mr. Seller, would you take 55 grand for your property? We can close with cash quick. We can get the agreement in place today, close within 21 to 30 days. We pay all the closing costs, blah, blah. Boom. You get that contract signed with the seller. When you get a contract signed with the seller, you have equitable interest in a property. So what does that mean, Jacob? So what it means when you have equitable interest in a property means that you have the ability to go out and market that contract. You can't market the property. If you're marketing the property, you're acting as a broker. So you're marketing the contract. You're marketing the contract to cash buyers. You're going to up the price so that you can make what you need or want on the property. Big mistake that a lot of people do when they start out is they get greedy. They're like, I'm going to make $30K, $70K, $100K off each deal. Cool, if the numbers work that way to where you can do that, go ahead all day, no problem. But if the numbers don't work that way to where you can do that, don't get greedy. When I was first starting out, I'd take a $2,000 deal, $3,000 deal, whatever. So you market the property to your cash buyers. Well, Jacob, how do you find these cash buyers? Well, the thing is what a lot of people realize when they start is that they think that the cash buyers is the hard part. No, the cash buyers is the easy part of the business. Yes, you need a lot of cash buyers to be able to move deals that you wouldn't otherwise, or get more for your deals and more for your spreads. But if you've got a really good deal, it's going to sell. It's going to sell regardless. So then, how do you find these buyers, Jacob? Okay, easy. You go on your Facebook and you search up wherever you're from. Okay, so for example, me, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky real estate investment groups, right? So I'm going to search up these Louisville, Kentucky real estate investment groups, and I'm going to, post the deal in there. Hey, I'm looking for serious cash buyers who can close quick. I've got a property in this area. Here's the details on it. Reach out to me if you're, serious. Another way is you can post the property on Zillow. Be careful with this so the seller doesn't see it, depending on what kind of seller it is. You can also put it on Craigslist. You can also, do other things. You can pull a list from PropStream for cash buyers and skip trace it, whatever. So you find your cash buyer, and then you get the agreement signed, and you want to get an earnest money deposit, an EMD. So what that is a good faith deposit saying that, hey, we're buying this property for this price, and we're putting down this good faith deposit to show that we're going to close. You want to make it non-refundable, so if the buyer backs out, you still get paid regardless. In our company, we do minimum $2,500. If we're dealing with a $7,000 property, we're doing $2,500 for the property regardless. I don't care if we're doing a $1,000 property. Our minimum is $2,500 earnest money deposit, up to $10,000, depending on the purchase price or how good of a deal it is. If it's a super hot freaking smoking deal in a good area, we're doing $5 to $10K earnest money, just because we need to make sure you're serious. So you get a buyer. Say you got under contract for 40. You got a buyer for 50,000. Okay, Jacob, what do I do next after I get that? Well, I skipped a part. So whenever you get the contract with the seller, then you're gonna look on Google, and you're gonna search title companies near me. So, or attorneys near me, depending on if you're a title company or attorney state. Then you're gonna call these title companies. Hey, Mr. Title Company, I was just wondering if you work with investors. Okay, cool. You work with investors. Do you do double closes in wholesale? Do you do double closes and assignments? If they say no, don't use that title company. If they say yeah, of course we do that all the time. Okay, cool. Then in my opinion, the next thing to ask is, okay, do you all do blind HUD statements or seller side and buyer side only HUD statements? What that means is you can have the title company do it to where the seller only gets their side of the closing statement and the buyer only gets their side of the closing statement, so the seller doesn't see how much you're making or wholesaling it for, and be like, well, you just sold my property, blah, blah, blah. We've come across sellers who have found out we're wholesaling it and we still do the deal, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because you're doing this as a business and an income to be able to make money, right? So why the hell should they care if you tell them from the get-go, hey, look, I'm looking to make money on this property, right? So you send that contract to the title company. Then they open escrow. When they open escrow, they start the title search, right? You find your buyer. Your buyer drops off the non-refundable earnest money deposit, and then you coordinate between the seller and the buyer for closing. The title company sets the closing. They get everything ready, get everything prepared, and from there, you set up the closing, and then at closing, the buyer brings the money to the table. The seller comes to, sign all the papers. The buyer comes to sign all the papers. And then at the end of the closing, you get a check or a wire for the difference in between, minus any closing costs you might have to pay if you didn't negotiate with the buyer regardless. So that is really the concept of wholesaling, from A to Z. I didn't go in as depth as I wanted to because I didn't want to make the video 2 hours long or anything, but I wanted to give you all a good overview and outlook of what wholesaling is. And, this is how I've been able to generate a 6-figure company on the way to a 7-figure company and be able to bring capital from having nothing, So this is a very good way, in my opinion, to make money. A few things you have to keep in mind is it's not going to be every seller that wants to sell. You're going to have a lot of no's before you get a yes. It's going to be a lot of obstacles and a lot of, things you have to go through. You cannot be scared to get on the phones and talk to sellers. You're going to have to get on the phones and talk to sellers regardless until you have a business to where you can delegate that task. But we'll talk about that later in other videos. And you have to be fearless. You have to really go hard, because if you got people who have got a full team together and they're going hard every day, how does that make, if you have somebody in your, market that's got 6 acquisitions or whatever, and, they're going hard every day, you got to go 10 times harder than them to get these deals. So you really got to work your ass off. It's a simple business, but it's not easy, if you understand that. So you're doing all this, you get the deal closed, boom. You got your first wholesale deal done, and the proof of concept of getting your first wholesale deal done is crazy. Let me just tell you a little bit about my first wholesale deal. So 4 days into wholesaling. Yes, 4 days. So don't think you're going to get your first contract after 4 days. I did, luckily, thank God. I did a lot of studying before I got into it, everything. So I got my first contract 4 days in, and I was doing everything on the ground, boots on the ground then. So met the seller. Hey, Mr. Seller, I think I can give you $45,000 for your house. Cool. We got the contract signed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then, hey, Mr. Seller, we need to put this lockbox on the property, put the key in there, whatever, regardless, do showings to show the buyers. All right. I showed this house to 15 different buyers. I locked this property up too high under contract. Do not be afraid if you lock a property up a little bit too high under contract, but do not go out there locking up every property you can. So, get this property under contract, and you had it for $45,000, showed 15 buyers. Nobody wanted it except one buyer. One buyer wanted it for $45,000. We had it under contract for $45,000. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? So then I scheduled an in-person appointment to talk to the seller. And then from there, I renegotiated the price down to $40,000 so we could get the deal done. You know, by the grace of God, he accepted it. It went through. And then the day before closing, no, the day of actually, the buyer was like, yeah, the house is going to be cleared out, right? The seller told me he was getting the house cleared out. So I'm like, yeah, for sure, the house is going to be cleared out, man. I got you. No worries. And this is a buyer I built a relationship with because my dad's a contractor and he knew him. So, like, you know, anytime I tell a buyer or a seller something, one thing about me is I really feel obligated to go through with my word and my commitment. So I was like, yeah, you know, for sure it's going to be. So I go up to the house like an hour before closing. And the seller's got all kinds of shit there. And he's like, man, he's like, can I just leave the rest of this stuff here? It didn't look like that much, but it really was a lot. It was about a whole dumpster full. So, you know, I'm like, yeah, man, that's cool, whatever, I'll get it. So then I tell the buyer, you know, before closing, I'm like, look, he, you know, still had some stuff there, and the buyer showed up himself, so he's seen some of it. Hey, look, he's still got some stuff there, blah, 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 you know, but I'll take care of it. Cool, so we close on the deal. I get my first $4,500 check. I'm so ecstatic to get this deal. Because I'm like, man, this really works. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to get in real estate. Like, this is amazing. So, boom. From there, you know, I'm telling the buyer, I'm like, yeah, I'll get the stuff out. You know, just get a dumpster and I got you. So I went over this house in 100-degree weather. And this house had fleas and everything in there, man. Like, it was crazy. All kinds of fleas. So in the middle of the summer, 100 degrees weather, I'm wearing shirt, long sleeve shirt, and then a jacket over me just to make sure that I don't get any fleas or ticks on me. And I'm wearing 2 pairs of pants. So about after 3 hours, I'm not even halfway done. I'm sweating real hard. I'm about to pass out. The house stinks. It smells like cats and dogs. All this. So then I'm like, man, I just call this buyer and I'm like, look, man, I'll just give you $500 if you just like clean this house out yourself. It's not worth it. So it was a really hard first deal to get done and really stressful, and I learned a lot from it. So your first deals are going to be harder. The smaller deals are going to be harder, but just keep that in mind. You know, and just, if you're already watching the video this long, press the like and subscribe button and comment on here and tell me what kind of content you want so that I can keep delivering this content to you so that I can keep providing value and making videos for you all. And, that's it as far as the concept of it. We'll go deeper into, other topics whenever you all want me to, but really, like button, subscribe, tell your friends, please, comment, so that, I can keep providing value. Peace out. Love y'all. Y'all take care. Hope y'all go out here and kill it. Let's get it.